Friday the 13th. I'm going to jump straight to it. There's 4 reasons you should watch Friday the 13th from 1980. There's no MacBooks, no iPads, no cell phones, and guess what? There's none of that stupid found footage junk that they're all doing these days. Thanks, Blair Witch. Directed in 1980 by Sean Cunningham and screenplay by Victor Miller, Friday the 13th was one of a kind. It was probably the first horror movie that really started that whole sort of slasher genre. Notice I said one of the first, not the first, nerds. This movie even has Kevin Bacon! Alright, so the whole idea behind Friday the 13th is sort of the you do what's bad, you get bad. You do what's good, you get good. This Friday the 13th does not have Jason in it. Well, sort of.
He's an old dummy. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. You want to hit him? You want to hit him?
Hit him! Say, boop, 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 boop. We can relate to Camp Crystal Lake on Friday the 13th because we kind of live in the mountains of West Virginia. That's why I have that West Virginia twang. We go camping and we get to see lakes and mountains and trees and stuff, and that's sort of the territory of Camp Crystal Lake, or Camp Blood. Most kids don't realize that Jason is not in the first film. It's Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees. But we don't find that out until later on in the film, like the last 15 minutes or so. So Mrs. Voorhees doesn't have a hockey mask. As I said, the hockey mask doesn't come in until part 3, and if you haven't seen that, then you should watch it. Why? Because it's part 3. It's where Jason gets his hockey mask, for crying out loud. But Harry Manfredini really does do a great job at building suspense in this film. These shrilly sounds and, you know, it's just the music's been carried on through many of the films, probably been altered a bit here and there. Cha-cha, ha-ha-ha, that we all know is the sound that Jason supposedly makes, which he doesn't. And I don't know why people do that when they're trying to impersonate Jason. They say, cha-cha-cha, ha-ha-ha. He's not making the sound, people, okay? It's just a sort of a thing that builds the intensity of the scene. You bunch of nerds. Another thing is the point of view that we're always seeing, where we're looking through the killer's eyes, the slasher's eyes. It's a mysterious sort of feel because you don't know who you are, but you're looking through this person's eyes. Really, really messes with the head. See him peering through the bushes, you see feet, you see pants, you see the hands moving, and it all looks really manly, and I think that's where they really threw us off in this film. They want you to think that the killer is a man, that only a man can do this, when the vengeance of a mom is greater than the power of any man. One of the best scenes in the film, Kevin Bacon takes a big dive off of a pier, and he looks like a football player trying to do ice hockey. Really, Kevin Bacon's probably never taken a dive in his life, and it's apparent in the movie when he thinks that a counselor is drowning. He runs down the hill, across the pier, leaps off, and just belly flops like that right onto the water. Looks so awkward. Watch it. It's hilarious. One of my favorite characters out of the film, obviously, is the town crazy Ralph. Ralph drives around a little bicycle with a basket on the front, and when there's a grown man that you can tell who's not riding a bike for exercise, there's something definitely wrong. He's either lost his license because he's done something he's not supposed to, or he's just nuts.
He's got a death curse.
Now, on a more serious note, there's a scene where a character named Marcy, who I believe is Kevin Bacon's girlfriend, they're walking around and a storm's brewing up and they have a seat, and Marcy recounts a dream that she keeps having. And in this dream, she talks about seeing the rain coming down, and I guess thunder and lightning, something to that nature, and talks about little rivers of blood. And just the way that she tells the dream and the atmosphere that's going on with the storm brewing up around them, I've seen the film many times, but this time just happened to capture my attention when I've watched it in October of 2014. And I've watched this movie since I can remember, probably about 4 years old. Where were my parents? A really chilling sort of scene that foreshadows what's about to happen. On the job for this particular film is Tom Savini, the master of horror special effects. If you don't know who Tom Savini is, you haven't lived. There's one part where Kevin Bacon dies, and there's a knife that comes up under the bed and actually comes out of his throat right here. I remember as a kid wondering, how in the world did they do that? And after reading Camp Crystal Lake Memories, which is a book that goes through, it's like a documentary book that goes through all the different films and what they did, the problems they encountered, and all this cool stuff, all this like behind the scenes stuff. I found out how they did it. I don't want to ruin that for you. I'm not here to tell you everything about the film. Watch it. Enjoy this horror classic. One of the scenes that I know Clem Russler would really like is near the end of the film. Alice, one of the main protagonists in the film, is making some instant coffee. So I know Clem Russler would really enjoy this film. If you don't know who Clem Russler is, be sure and check him out on Mr. Maynard 77 on YouTube.
Man, the Voorhees is like this.
One of the things that Mrs. Voorhees does when we kind of finally find out that she is the killer, when she's trying to attack Alice at the end, she's already done away with Steve Christie in the rain outside and the headlights and all that. Actually, that's one scene I should probably mention first. I don't know if in any of the other Friday the 13th films, if anyone actually dies right by the sign that says Camp Crystal Lake. But Steve Christie in the original Friday the 13th can claim that death himself.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
Perfect for Camp Blood. Once we find out that Mrs. Voorhees is the killer, we start hearing her inner thoughts come out verbally. She's starting to say,
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
like Jason's living through her. Alice tries to hide inside of a storeroom, and next thing you know, you can see the knob. And so that tension again starts building. In a very The Shining fashion, the door starts getting chopped and chopped. And you see Mrs. Voorhees' head poke in and smile psychotically. Probably the most intense, truly intense, horrific scene takes place on the beach down by the lake. And that is where Mrs. Voorhees meets her demise. When Alice is able to wrestle away the machete from Mrs. Voorhees, comes up and kapow right through her neck. There goes Mrs. Voorhees' head. What's really funny is you can see what looks like two toothpicks where the head was being held on in slow motion as the body slumps and starts to fall. The next morning, Alice wakes up. There's cops out on the edge of the lake, and Alice wakes up. She's like stroking the water with her hand. There's this cute little music playing. You think everything's good. Butterflies probably are going to be flying by and little birdies over top of her head. But then right when you think everything's cool, you hear rock, 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 rock. Jason, as the boy, looks zombified, and he grabs her and then pulls her back, and you see you're struggling, and she falls into the water, and the next thing you know, she's in the hospital talking to the cops there. What about the boy? Is he dead too?
The boy?
The boy, Jason, the one who attacked me and pulled me under the water. Didn't you see that? You were standing right there on the lake's edge.
Ma'am, we didn't find no boy.
Well, then he's still there. Still there. Friday the 13th, man. Go watch it.